share, join the conversation.
It is 8 minutes past 2, and if you've just tuned in to the second hour of the show, we are delighted to have you with us. You are just in time to join the conversation as we discuss the science behind skincare and Environ's innovatively focused care range, only on Cape Talk. It is such a great pleasure for us to be able to introduce this special live studio audience, taking up the entire second hour of the show today, all about skincare. In the first half hour or so, we're going to be sharing the story of the man behind Environ, a surgeon who went from working on Chris Barnard's heart transplant team to forging a distinguished career in plastic and reconstructive surgery, which led to a fascination with the skin, how it ages, how it can be preserved and improved, and to the development of the proudly South African skincare range we now know as Environ. I don't know if Des was listening before the break and heard the wonderful message that came in from one of our listeners who used to work in a salon in London, raving about the Environ range and saying how highly regarded it was over there. Looking forward to hearing the story behind the founding of the company and the development of that range. And then after 2:30, we'll tell you about the very latest releases from Environ, and then we'll be joined by a dermatologist who will be standing by to answer your questions around treating skin conditions, skincare for the summer, how to deal with holiday flare-ups of your eczema. I've already got a few questions coming in around psoriasis and rosacea. Thank you for those, and we will put them to our dermatologist in the last 20 minutes or so of the show. You're invited to join the conversation on 021 446 0567. To those of you here with us in the audience, a very warm welcome and lovely to have you with us today. The way for you to ask a question is just to raise a hand and we'll get a microphone through to you to ask away. For those not with us, remember you also have at your disposal our SMS line 31567 and our WhatsApp line 072 567 1567. We'll be back right after this talking the story of Environ with Dr. Des Fernandes. What do you look for in a medical aid? If you set a medical scheme that is solely focused on providing cover that's excellent value for money and reliable service, MediHelp should be right at the top of your list. By receiving the highest satisfaction rating from its members in the recent South African Customer Satisfaction Index survey, MediHelp made it clear that a century's experience, combined with undivided attention to providing medical cover, ensures consistency that more than 200,000 members consider invaluable. Visit medihelp.co.za or SMS MediHelp to 32291 to find out more. Right, that's our speed wobble out the way. Apologies, everyone.
No use giving it a bite out. The issue of just single bailout and the retrenchment that we have. And we're having problems in our SOEs.
Good to let's encourage spokespersons.
Breakfast with Kilo Cookies every weekday on Cape Talk. Join the conversation.
Can I just get Sharon while you're here? Can you just raise your hand? Sharon Kerry? Back to you, just so I know.
Relax, bud. That was the hope for me by cars. You just told me yesterday you were thinking of selling your car. I was. So I
Jenny Dixon?
website and they made me
Okay, thank you.
2 minutes ago. What about the payment? Got it. They came to me, did all the paperwork, and made immediate payment. Wow.
Rose.
I know, right?
Hello, Rose.
We buy cars. It's the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Success comes when you keep your eye on it. National leader in state-of-the-art sports stadium lighting, Maritz Electrical, makes it easier to
Beatrice?
focus on and off the field.
Okay.
Having just installed world-class lighting for St. George's Park Cricket Ground, the sky is literally the limit. There is no stadium too big or too small. Maritz Electrical has just the right lighting solution for you.
Okay,
Go to
thank you.
maritzelectrical.co.za now and let's see how we can revolutionize your lighting. Maritz Electrical,
Valerie.
world-class sports lighting solution.
There.
Heads up, class of 2018. South Africa's go-to online matric results portal is back on EWN.
Bernice, I think is in the front somewhere. Hello?
Go to
Okay.
matric.ewn.co.za. Click on the link, fill out the short form to sign up for an SMS notification from us, letting you know the results are live. EWN will also have all the IEB and DBE results online as soon as they're released. You can also visit the link to search for your results using your exam number. The independent examinations board results will be released on the 3rd of January. The Western Cape Education Department's results are out a day later on January the 4th. Eyewitness News, inside the truth. This is Pippa Hudson on lunch.
Time for you to join the conversation. We're talking skincare only on Cape Talk, and such a pleasure for me to have with us in studio today Dr. Des Fernandes, who is the founder and scientific director of Environ Skincare. Welcome to Cape Talk. I think it's welcome back. I know you've been in the building before, but it's lovely to have you with us for such a chunk of time. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Pippa. It's great to be here.
So a little bit of background for those who don't know his story. Des obtained his medical degree at Wits University before specialising in cardiology at the College of Surgeons in Edinburgh. And after some time working and training in the UK, returned to South Africa, where initially he practiced as a cardiothoracic surgeon, joining Professor Chris Barnard on the world-famous heart transplant unit at Greta Scare Hospital. So before we talk skincare, I'm intrigued. Tell us what you did and what role did you play on the Prof. Barnard's team?
Well, basically I was just an assistant in operating, looking after patients, so standard medical care. And I was the only person who could speak Portuguese, so I had to deal with the people that came from Luanda and from Romania.
From Romania? People
came from Romania to be operated on by Chris Barnard, and the closest language for them was Portuguese rather than Romanian.
That is fascinating. Okay. Were you part of the actual pioneering first heart transplant?
Not the first single heart transplant, but this double heart transplant.
You're going to have to explain for us what a double heart transplant is, please.
That's where you keep your heart that's failing, but you add the new heart to help it pump.
Again, that's fascinating. I don't think many people even know that that option exists. Is it still in use today?
It's used when it's necessary. By the way, you can see the illustrations that I did of the heart operation, which I drew from imagination, because on the day of that operation I got a herpes blister on my lip, so I wasn't allowed to be in the area. But I sat and I drew that by imagination, and that became the official diagrams of the papers of that particular operation, and you can actually see them in Chris Barnard Hospital in Cape Town. I saw it just the other day by chance.
You must get such a thrill seeing. I mean, it's a long time ago now, and it's a whole career specialty, a world away for you. But what was it like to be part of such a pioneering, groundbreaking unit that was doing work that the whole world was watching?
Well, you know, basically you're only concentrating on doing your best and striving to keep people alive, and in a way it was a magnificent introduction for me to make skincare, because I wanted to make skincare without preservatives in it. And so I learned how you take care that you do not transmit any microbes or you know, to contaminate products. And that's when we started with those principles in making Environ.
Now, was your interest in skincare, I mean, you've taken lessons from that learning in cardiothoracic surgery into your skincare practice, but where did the fascination with skin actually take root and begin?
Well, I wasn't basically interested in skincare because I thought that creams don't work, number one. I thought that anything you applied to the surface of your skin was unimportant, and I never used anything myself. And then what happened is our department had 2 patients with who developed melanoma. And I realized that we had to do something to prevent this, because both of these patients were extraordinarily young. They were 19 years old and they were dead by 23.
Sure.
So, but the other thing is they were particularly special people. So they were the type of people that if you think who should go into the future of South Africa, then certainly these type of people was what we needed. And so then I thought, we've got to look at prevention. And so I had some spare time, and I used to go to the library, and read through the old index medicals and try and find any mention of skin and cancer and so on. And that's how I came across vitamin A. So then I realized I'd been using it since 1976 on my acne patients and my scar patients. And then I decided in 1982 on my 40th birthday, I had to do something, and I realized by then that all my patients on treatment with vitamin A had beautiful skin. So that was how it all happened.
What an extraordinary story. I want to mention, just because of the local significance here, that Dr. Des went on to spend 21 years as a consultant when he was still working in the plastics and reconstructive industry, this is, as he still does today. Spent 21 years as a consultant in charge of the cleft lip and palate division at Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital. He developed his own private practice in plastic and reconstructive surgery, as I said, still practicing today. He has written any number of papers for international journals, entire chapters for textbooks on different procedures in the field. But what he is primarily known for, and as our earlier WhatsApp had described him, a rock star of the industry, is for this work with vitamin A. So you noticed that the patients you've been treating with vitamin A had beautiful skin. How did you piece together how to take that side effect and work with it as an active ingredient?
Well, you see, in the beginning, I also made the same mistake as many doctors have made and still make today. I thought that the acid form of vitamin A, which is the medical form of vitamin A, was the only one that worked, and that in fact the softer so-called versions of vitamin A don't work. Well, then as I read more and more into the physiology, I discovered that we eat the cosmetic form of vitamin A. When we eat vitamin A in our food, it's very largely the cosmetic form. And our body cells change that into the medically active form. And every skin cell in your, on you is actually a factory to convert cosmetic vitamin A into medical vitamin A. So when I realized that, around about 1985, 86, that was when I realized I could make a cosmetic cream, because prior to that I was using the medical form and people were rejecting it because it irritates the skin, it makes the skin red and uncomfortable. And whereas when you use the cosmetic form, you can get up to the same levels of activity without getting irritated or red, scaly skin.
Is it just a case of, if you apply more to the skin, you're giving yourself extra tools to build beautiful skin? Or is it a case of the way we live our modern lifestyle, particularly here in South Africa, our very outdoor lifestyle? Is there anything in the way we live that is depleting our innate residue of vitamin A, if I can call it that?
Well, we've got a problem, because vitamin A lies in a very upper level of our skin, but it's very sensitive to sunlight. And when you go out, when I say sunlight, I mean even on a cloudy day, then you lose that vitamin A. And that vitamin A is your reservoir that helps your cells to remain healthy. You know, most people don't understand this, but vitamin A starts its action in you the moment the ovum is fertilized.
From the point of conception?
From that moment onwards, vitamin A takes a dominant role in controlling how your DNA works. And it controls how your cells grow. It wants your cells to grow healthily and normally. It wants your cells also to differentiate. You know, some cells are going to become lung cells, some cells are going to become heart cells, muscle cells, skin cells, etc. Vitamin A is there, involved in that. Then, after that, what you want to do is you want to mature those cells. You know, like if you imagine a little fetus now has to grow up into being an adult. Well, that's what vitamin A is doing to cells. And it becomes important for us to keep our skin healthy, because if we don't keep it healthy, then we're going to be subjected to irritations, atopy, eczemas, skin cancer. Of course, and that's how I came into this, because of its relationship to skin cancer. If your skin is rich in vitamin A, you won't get a skin cancer. Not a traditional basal cell carcinoma or a squamous cell carcinoma. So that's why vitamin A really is such a fundamental molecule, the only vitamin that controls so many genes, by the way. It controls about 20% of,
as much as 20%.
5%, sorry,
Okay.
5% of your genes.
For those who might have joined us late to the broadcast, you're listening to Dr. Des Fernandes, who's the founder and scientific director of Environ Skincare, who's been sharing with us the story of how you became interested in skin and skin health in the first place. I think at this point, let's take a question from the audience. Amy, if you can get the microphone to Rose, if Rose can just raise her hand, who had a question here on the left-hand side. Rose particularly wanted to know about rejuvenating skin. Rose, over to you. Good afternoon.
Yes, it's Nicholas. Hi. Yes, I was just wondering, is it the fact that you can change your skin as an older woman or person?
Now you've given me a very difficult problem. Are you talking to me as a scientist, or are you talking to me as somebody representing an environment? I'll speak as a scientist now. When they're using the medical version of vitamin A, they have scientifically shown that you can rejuvenate skin. So you certainly can get rid of finer wrinkles. You can make skin look tighter. You can make skin look healthier. When we look at it with the microscope, the structure of the skin returns to a younger looking skin. So that's the medical form of vitamin A that you can only make from the cosmetic form that you may eat or apply on the skin.
Now, speaking of applying to the skin, we would be remiss in not talking a little bit about the founding of the company. You've done the research, you've had this moment of recognition that vitamin A is the key, and you've obviously moved away from that early belief that creams don't work because you founded a company that makes them. Des, tell us a little bit about the founding of the company in the early 1990s.
Well, actually it started in the 80s. And the thing is this, that I found a chemist who could work with me. And because what we wanted to add were antioxidants, and in the beginning, you know, I made the creams in my kitchen, but I must say that the shelf life was probably about 1 month.
Okay.
So I obviously had to change that.
Yeah.
And then I offered it only to my patients who came to me for a facelift and things like that, because the thing is this, that if you want real rejuvenation, you cannot make somebody look younger without making their skin look younger, because then they just look odd. They look like somebody who's pulled tight but isn't young. So initially I gave it free to many of my patients, and maybe somebody's listening to this, they used to get it like that. And then my secretary started to complain because my waiting list had changed from about 4 months up to 9 to 11 months.
Sure.
And then I discovered that people were coming in, sitting in front of me and saying, I actually only came here to get the cream. So I spoke to my sister and she said, well, let's see if we can sell it. And that's it.
And that's where it all started. Is it true you used to test, and in fact still do, test all of your new ranges on yourselves and your friends and family?
Absolutely. I have a difficulty with acne products because I can only use them, but I can't tell you how effective they are because I haven't had acne, I used to get the occasional spot until about the 80s, about 81, 82, but as my skin became richer in vitamin A, I never had a spot. So
you are your own walking best advertisement, it's got to be said, the quality of your own skin. Speaking of testing the product, Susanna had a question. If Susanna can just raise her hand for us in the audience. At the back there. Thank you very much, Amy. If you can get the microphone to Susanna.
Do they test it on animals?
No, we've never tested on animals because, I have this personal belief that a rat is not doesn't have skin like a human, and anything you can learn from an animal doesn't tell you what happens to a human. The other thing, of course, I'm an anti-vivisectionist, and I'm against animal testing, but I just want to tell you we're not allowed to say that we do not test on animals, because it's illegal in the common European Union to make that claim, because it's forbidden. As a matter of fact, the only place where you got to do animal testing is in China.
Okay, which you don't do. So, end of question. Susanna, thanks, an important question to ask. Let's just briefly talk about the range. You started with your step-up vitamin A range, and the idea is you start with smaller doses of vitamin A and gradually increase as the skin adjusts to those. Since then, you've expanded with new ranges, and we'll talk about the brand new one after the news headlines. But how many products in total are there in the Environ range now?
I don't know. I think there are 50 something. We make a lot of products. We make some products especially for overseas. We make some products especially for Africa. We make special products for Japan. We've got a very wide range for Japan.
Really?
Also, yes. So if you're talking about individual products, then it's quite a lot.
A lot of people on our SMS line, and in fact here in the audience, have asked questions about pigmentation. Can the Environ range be used to help with pigmentation?
I can just tell you one thing about pigmentation. I went to a lecture by one of the world authorities on pigmentation, and he was going to give us what's new in pigmentation. And he stood up and he said, well, I suppose you're all here to find out the latest, greatest way to do it. He says, I want you to all leave with the information that there is no treatment for pigmentation. And that's what we've got to realize. We can lighten pigmentation, but we can never say, look, it's gone. Now, this is quite different from acne, where you treat the acne and the person gets better, and then there's a great chance they won't get that again. With pigmentation, you have to constantly treat it for the rest of your life. There is no treatment that just takes it away, and you don't have to worry.
Which is obvious from the number of questions we're receiving. Thank you for that. Right, we're going to go to the news headlines, and we'll come back and continue the conversation with Dr. Des Fernandes. And there are messages streaming in on the WhatsApp line. Remember, you can also send an SMS to 31567 or tweet your question at Cape Talk. Let's say hello to Lindsay Dietlinger, who's standing by with the latest Eyewitness News headlines.
Thanks, Pippa. Good afternoon. The Basic Education Department says the marking of matric scripts is in full swing across the country, but load shedding is impacting our captured data. 2018 National Senior Certificate exams concluded last week. Basic Education Director Fernandes Background visited